What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back. The Inside Wisconsin Show here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, J.A. The big epic marathon was in Green Bay this past weekend. Used to be called the Cellcom.
Yep.
Now Epic Event Center took it over. Our friends from Epic and management at Festival Foods. It was the first big one. The first one. Lots of live music. It was really cool.
Well, what defines big? Because they're all the same length, right?
It's
like when you say, I'll be back in a quick minute. I'm like, all minutes are exactly the same length of time. But listen, all I know is I've had people I know that have run the Cellcom. And while there might be more prestigious marathons in terms of, New York or Boston, they're all the same length. So if you do that, God bless, right? Like that, I'm on it and good for you. Kudos to all those people. They always say the race is always up front. Because they're, people, but the real marathon's in the back. It's the people that train for that want to do that want to knock it off their bucket list and all that other thing. So, good on it.
It's a Boston qualifier.
Bellin run.
What's that?
I said I would just be happy if I could finish the Bellin run.
Isn't that a 5K or 10K?
Might have been 8. I don't know. It's just not 26.2.
No, it's not.
42.2 if you're wondering how far metrically a marathon.
I wonder if that's going to change to the Amplify run. Now that it's Amplify, not Bellin. Fascinating. What is the qualifying time for Boston?
So it goes, it is age graded, and it is going down this year.
Oh.
It was for the last couple of years, if you were a male, 18, got to be 18, can't be less than 18. I think 18 to 34 was 3 hours. It is now 2:55. To get in, you gotta be a. Now you can get in if you can get in with a time that's not a qualifier because they set aside a certain number for charity that you can raise money to get in. You got to raise about $10,000 for a selected charity. You can't just show up. So they're really they all went down 5 minutes, and I think I don't know the women's right offhand. I just knew the men because it was an even number. It went from 3 to 2:55, but. It's you gotta they limit that field to 33,000 something like that, and they get 30 in and so think about it, 2:55. Like this year there were people that ran 3, and I think the average number because if they have more than too many, they start coming down. So I think literally the number this year was like 2:53, which is why they dropped it. Which is an incredible number to be able to run that fast that far that fast.
So I know that you often are told there would be no math, but based on my math, that's less than 7 minutes a mile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Because 7 minutes a mile times 20 is 140. So that's 220. And then you add another 642. Yeah. It's a little 302, I think is a 7 minute mile. His marathon is 302-ish. Mm-hmm.
What's the fastest you ever ran a mile? And then we'll get to our guest.
Wow. I don't even know.
No.
I'd have to even go look. I ran a 5-mile race one time, and I did that in just a shade under 33, which was 6.5-ish.
Jeez.
So, and in college, I ran like a 2:03 half, but a half mile. God bless me though if I could have gotten the other half done.
Right. Different ballgame.
I can still remember the workout. This is horrible. I don't know why I'm wasting people's time with this, but I ran 2:03, and then we had 5 minutes rest, and I ran 2:08, and it was this workout that came from out of nowhere. And coach was like, "Where did that come from? Like, did you literally?" Well, what had happened is I had torn up my knee my senior year, and so I was doing this. They had done all this testing, and one leg had not. I didn't rehab it enough very well. Well, it turns out I had been going through this whole rehab workout. And then going to practice right after that, when that was supposed to be my workout, that was it. So I was literally doing 2 workouts back to back, like not even any rest in between. I went in there. And so, I had some marked improvement after my first 8 weeks on the team because all of a sudden I was just doing one. And so I ran 2:03 and 2:08, and the coach was like, "What the hell?" Well, there you go. No,
nice.
I was clean athlete.
All right. On to our chat today, Daryn Colledge, former offensive lineman for the Green Bay Packers and a couple other teams, turned Army National Guardsman, turned winery owner, winemaker, even though he's not the maker, but fascinating conversation you will absolutely enjoy. And let me just say that if I played a professional sport, I would be done running, speaking of running, after said sport. But he's like, no, let's go to boot camp.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the whole thing is really, he's an interesting guy. As you said, those are three from Ghostbusters. Those are three different streams. Don't cross the streams. Those are three really different streams. And then on top of that, he's from North Pole, Alaska. Like, I feel like there's a lot to get to here.
There's a lot here. So let's jump in. Packer Super Bowl champ, Daryn Colledge on the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaines Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
He's in fatigues, but you recognize him in a Green Bay Packers jersey and also that Super Bowl ring on his finger. Super Bowl champ, Daryn Colledge on the Inside Wisconsin Show. Good to see you, D.
Good to see you guys. How you been?
I'm good. Do you have the Super Bowl ring on?
No. God, no.
Yeah.
No, actually.
How often does that come out of the box?
I tell most people, like, gun to my head, I don't even know where it is most of the time. I have to ask my wife. She tucks it away so I don't lose it. I don't want to pull a Jerry Kramer leaving on an airplane kind of deal. So it's in my safe. It comes out pretty much for kids events or Packers events or autograph sessions. It comes out when it needs to come out. If we're trying to raise money for a good cause, the ring is probably going to be out. Other than that, it's more of it's a mystique, right? Oh, where is the ring?
Yeah. And it's kind of gaudy, like to water the lawn or mow the lawn with your ring on seems a little awesome,
I mean, I feel like it's a conversation starter, but the problem is, like, some of the neighborhood people start showing up. We get too many of the neighborhood wives around here wondering why I'm out in a Super Bowl ring with no shirt on, mowing my lawn. That's why the wife actually put AstroTurf in the backyard so I could stop mowing it. So it's one of those things where it was just getting awkward.
Yeah.
So
the problem is those things is they're great conversation starters, but then the conversation never ends, right? Because people just want to keep seeing it and they want to keep talking about it like that. I feel like the starter's not the problem. It's the ending that can be difficult.
Well, yeah, and then they want to touch it. And then it starts getting into an awkward, insurance situation on, like, do I let random people handle the ring? And but actually it's not that gaudy. I mean, I really think if you look back at a lot of the rings the Packers won is quite classy for all intents and purposes. One of my fellow teammates here won one with the Patriots when they won their third. And that thing is just ostentatious. I mean, I'm totally uncomfortable even being in public with him when he wears it. It almost looks like brass knuckles. It ends up having to cover three fingers. And I'm like, what are you guys compensating for here? I don't get it.
Yeah. Who is that? Is that Joe?
Shea McClellan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a Patriot here, came out of Boise State. So
you have played for two great teams, the Green Bay Packers and the United States Army. Are there any similarities between those two organizations?
I think there's a lot of similarities between the two organizations, but most will probably land on the side of tradition. It's one of those things where, you have mystique and tradition when it comes to the Packers. There's a certain reverence when you work with the organization. Now, obviously, if you play in the NFC North, you don't believe in any of that stuff. But I think any player that has the opportunity to play in an organization like that has that much history, there's a certain reverence to it, and a certain, especially the amount of time the Packers bring around the legends. I mean, you spend so much time with Hall of Famers and guys that, for God's sakes, the coach is on the trophy. It's one of those things where it's like you just kind of feel that, and it oozes that when you're around it. And I don't think you even recognize how important that is until you leave that organization. As much as I want to be a Packer my entire career, I had the opportunity to go to other teams. I almost appreciate that because it shows me how important and how special my time was there. The United States military is along that same lines. It's one of those things where there's so much history, there's so much tradition, there's so much blood and sacrifice that you have to have a certain reverence to it when you first get into it, but you probably don't even recognize it as much until it's all over also.
Mm-hmm.
Daryn, when I first met you, though, you had that Super Bowl ring on for a second, and then it was at the Phoenix draft primer with Coach Gottlieb. He and Tony Mull were there and so many others. And you had the ring on that day. And they called up a particular Minnesota Viking to talk. And J.A., you'll love this. On his way up there, the room wasn't sure if we should clap for him or not.
Right.
Like, and I leaned forward and I said to him and Tony Mull, I'm not clapping for that shit.
Come on now.
And Daryn goes, where's your ring, bitch? It was great.
Yeah, that happened.
How often do you get back to Green Bay to participate in events like that help the community or the Packers or whatever it may be?
We are there probably every year at least. Tony Mall is there multiple times a year, and so is Jason. My schedule isn't quite as flexible as theirs when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I'm back usually at least every other year in Lambeau for a game and an autograph session and an event. And then we're in Milwaukee almost every year. We're usually in the Lombardi Classic playing. So that's one of the things we're definitely back for. And then Tony's there probably multiple times a year, every year. So it's one of those things where we try to be in there as often as we can. I had the fortunate opportunity the last couple of years to work with a suicide prevention organization for the military based out of Milwaukee. That I was back there a couple times in the last couple of years. So it just kind of depends on what it is. We are always happy to come back and spread what B-level clout we have as former celebrities. If it can help a cause, raise a little bit more money for, something it needs. I mean, we're always happy to do that.
So I appreciate your humility with the B-level celebrity thing, but I live there. Like, if you're a Packer, there's a sort of like no B-level celebrity. Like, I get that maybe Bart Starr had sort of a different, but otherwise, like, I feel like that's part of the great thing is that if you played with the Packers, like, that status is enough. It doesn't matter a Hall of Fame. Like, you go through the stands and you're liable to see 6 or 8 of your jerseys still. Like, people pick their guy and they are not bound by how many Pro Bowls. Like, if you've spent time in there, I don't know if you get that same sense, but I don't ever think of, like I said, outside of maybe Bart, that I've ever seen anybody get treated different than another guy.
No, I mean, obviously there's a few exceptions. The way Brett was around town and Aaron was way around town. I mean, you don't even want to go to a gas station when you're those guys. And Bart, the Hall of Famers are definitely put on another level. They're exceptional guys. But I think the Packers organization as a whole does an amazing job. They treat every one of us like we won a gold jacket. They fly you back. They put you up in a nice place. They treat you well. They pay you to go to an autograph session when, like, it literally looks like it might just be your mom who shows up. And it's just one of those things where they do just a great job of celebrating you. And then the community itself embraces you always, especially if you're a quality human being and you came there and you did right by them. And, there's a lot of us guys who were the last ones to win championships. And a lot of those people remember that and they're holding on to that and they're waiting for the next one, but they still recognize us as the last Super Bowl team. And they do a great job of taking care of us and embracing us and making us feel like home. The Packers is one of those funny places where it feels like I end up just going back and going to tailgates and hanging out with people. They treat you not just as a football player, but as a normal human being. And sometimes that's what a lot of us want. We are just normal guys who did a job. And, the majority of us weren't Hall of Famers. The majority of us were, bricks in the wall that helped support the really, really great players and a great organization to go out and do the things it could do. And we were just fortunate enough to be a part of the success and go along for the ride.
Because I covered the Cardinals for 3 years before I went to ESPN. Right. And every once in a while, Roy Green would show up, but the whole organization. And I liked Michael Bidwell and I liked Billy and all those guys, but that's just not how they operated. And I don't know if that's because they had the one championship back in the 40s, but which isn't to say they're not a great organization, but it's just a different kind of place.
Yeah, I mean, I think each organization has its own. I will never speak badly about the Arizona Cardinals. I loved my time there. I love the guys I played with there. Had an awesome experience there. Wish it would have lasted a little longer. A lot of changes while we were there, especially at the quarterback position and management levels and stuff like that. And a lot of us got wrapped up in that. But I loved my time there. They took great care of me and awesome. They are an organization that seems to be right now stretching its arms back out to its alumni. I get emails from them regularly to come back and do stuff, but it is absolutely totally different than the Packers organization. The Packers organization, obviously without an owner, they're in a different situation financially, connecting wise. It's just a different organization on how they decide to do what they do with their money and with their time. And I believe they're also in a unique community where that's important to that community. You go into a place like Phoenix, you got 5 professional teams right there. Like, you can go around and people are like, I don't care who you are. Where the Packers, it's one of those things where it's like people care. Like, that's the thing that's happening in town. And the Packers have found a way to embrace that where, Arizona's probably looked at that and said, we don't need to. And Miami's another situation just like that. I wrapped up my career in Miami. A lot of that community is the exact same way. If you're doing really, really well, the stadiums are going to be packed. And if you're not doing well, everybody's just going to go down the road and they'll watch somebody else play. So it's one of those things where it's just different. And I think each place has its own community and its own feel. And as much as I wish some of the other teams leaned into it, because not everybody's going to get a chance to play for an organization like the Packers, but they want that feeling. I've heard that a lot of other teams can do it very well, but I've yet to hear anybody that does as well as Green Bay.
So that's where it ended in Miami. But take us back to the beginning, right? It was Fairbanks, Alaska, Boise State, Green Bay. Were you one of the few players that actually landed in Green Bay and went, oh, weather's gorgeous here. This is really nice and warm?
I probably was one of the few guys, coming from North Pole, which is right outside of Fairbanks. It was one of those things where it's like, I went down to Boise and I was like, oh, this is a nice little break. I mean, this is lovely. It's, it's 90 degrees in the summer. It's, it's 10 in the winter sometimes. But most of the time it's like 30. It's, and then I went to Green Bay and I was like, this is going to be no problem at all. And I actually distinctly remember everybody was kind of warning me, like, the weather in Green Bay, it's going to get bad, blah, blah, blah. And, oh man, when we go down to Chicago, it's going to be terrible. And my rookie season, we went down to Chicago and it was like 36 degrees, blue skies, not a breath of wind. And I was like, you guys are the softest bunch of people I've ever met in my entire life. I don't know what you're talking about. We went down there our second season and played at the end of the year, and it was the coldest game in new Soldier Field history. And I think we lost 100-5. Brett Favre had like 42 incompletions. Like, he didn't even want to be there. We'd already wrapped up the championship for the conference. So he's like, I just want to go home. Everybody wanted to go home. Mike McCarthy was losing his mind. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive. Like, this is a whole nother level of cold. So I'm telling you about that Midwest, and you come off those lakes, it's a different cold sometimes.
It is a unique thing that you have to get used to. And I don't know that you ever really, I have people all the time like, you grew up in a cold weather, you should love it. I'm like, no, this means I put on a hat. But to your first point, my dad used to always say, Trevor knows this, I talk about him a lot. He used to say, if the sun's shining and there's no wind, zero's not terrible.
No.
You're like, well, that's the dumbest thing ever. And actually you find out, it's actually not terrible. But how does a guy in Alaska get discovered, period? I've asked Schlereth the same thing, Stink. Like, how do they find you up there? Because it's not really a recruitable state for the most part.
Well, hopefully guys like Stink really laid the foundation for guys. Stink, I grew up watching Mark, obviously, and he was one of those guys that you kind of circle, but I was a D lineman. I was like, I'm never going to look like that guy. Like, that is not my plan, to be a 300-pound fat guy playing offensive line. I had this plan of being like lean and mean and leaving Idaho, but I wasn't going to play college football. I was surrounded by 2 military bases. That was my plan, to get out of my community. North Pole, Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska is one of those blue collar towns where you kind of do what your dad did, or you find a way out. And I knew I didn't want to be a blue collar laborer the rest of my life. I didn't want to build fence. It was one of those things where I wanted to go to college and get an education and do something different. I wanted to be the first man to leave my family and get a college degree. And I had a coach who believed in me. I had a coach who said, hey, I think that there's enough good tape out there that somebody will give you a chance. I had some minor scholarships to play baseball in the Midwest, but they were 75%. We didn't have any money as a family. So I was like, okay, well, I'm either taking debt or join the military. And he's like, hey, just let me see if I can get you recruited. We built out tapes, what these kids don't know anything about anymore. We sent out a bunch of VHSs, probably 150 VHSs. Wow. That a friend gave us to record with. And I got 2 responses back. Actually, I got 3. Michigan sent me a postcard, and I sent it back, and I think they realized they mailed it to the wrong person. So I never heard back from them. And Oregon made me an offer and then rescinded it within 2 weeks because they'd gotten a blue chip guy that they didn't think they were going to get, and they didn't have a scholarship. So they asked me to walk on. And Boise State offered me a full ride. And I was excited to play football because it was the sport I'd played the least and I was most excited about. And it was the one that was going to pay me to go to college. And I knew I could walk out with no debt, and that's what I could afford. And Dan Hawkins and Dirk Cutter took a chance on an athletic, wiry kid from North Pole. No idea if I even knew how to play football the real way. They thought I played, I'm pretty sure they thought I played 7-man or 8-man football. But got down there and knew that they would get a hardworking guy that'd probably kill himself to not embarrass his mom and his state. And it worked out.
And then a 2nd-round draft pick to come to Green Bay. So what was that moment like for you and your family, right? You were the first of all those things you just listed off, and now you're going to the NFL. That was surreal, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, amazing excitement and feeling fortunate and blessed. And again, just in a situation where I was like, all right, don't embarrass Boise, don't embarrass Alaska, don't embarrass mom. go out there and prove yourself. And I didn't know if I was going to be in the league for 15 years or 15 minutes. Whether people want to admit it, at that time, Boise State was still an up-and-coming program. We hadn't beat Oklahoma yet. We hadn't done all the ESPN games. We were just starting to become one of those things. And we were, I was all of a sudden going to go and compete against the best. I was a big fish in a little pond, played very good football and played against guys who went to the NFL, but I wasn't doing that day in, day out talent stuff. I had a chance to go to the Senior Bowl and finally compete against a lot of those guys and show what I had. But I went in the NFL as a second-round draft pick, expected to play, and fell flat on my face, frankly. My first preseason game, I think I fell down 42 times on the first 30 plays, and had to work my way back up and kind of build up past that and gain a knowledge and understanding of how the game was played at that level, at that speed. And fortunately, I found it. I got the work ethic, and I was always a smart player, and kept my head down and kept working hard and found a way to stretch it into a 9-year career.
Have you ever heard a good joke about being from North Pole, Alaska? Because I imagine it's just endless to the point you're like, I've heard everything.
No, because being from North Pole, Alaska, to most people is a joke. So it's like one of those things they don't even lean into it. They're like,
right.
Yeah, okay. You know how many free beers I got in college because I could bet people I was from a place they'd never been to or seen? I had my photo ID, my driver's license said North Pole, Alaska. So the jokes kind of just make themselves. You hear the Santa Claus stuff. And everybody leans into it, right? The Boise State Broncos leaned into it. The Green Bay Packers. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember around Christmas time, it was like me. I'd be always on Christmas, and they'd be talking about North Pole, Alaska. They'd be talking about, some other guy from a town called Christmas, Oklahoma or whatever, or this guy grew up on this street or that. Everybody leans into it and enjoys it, and I'm super proud of where I'm from. Right? North Pole's a great town. It's it's a blue collar community. It's a hardworking place. We pull very few college athletes out of it, and I might be the only draft pick out of it. So it's one of those things where hopefully I'm laying the foundation again for guys. I came out of there 25 years ago, so it probably feels like the next draft pick should probably be coming out of there right about now. So all these colleges should probably be scouting North Pole this year.
I think it's funny. You're like, I wanted to be the first in my family to get out of town, go to college, and all those things. Like a lot of people, and then first to be drafted. Like there's a lot of families that don't have that guy yet. That they're still waiting for their first to be drafted. I'm curious more when you talk about Fairbanks, because I think now we have, for whatever reason, we've decided Alaska is just the coastline where you cruise and everybody catches salmon. Right. Yep. But Fairbanks is inland, and some of the things, like, describe that place that's maybe not what we think of Alaska now because of what the Chamber of Commerce would like us to think of Alaska.
Yeah, it's not your tourist destination. Well, you look at the state of Alaska, it's 3 times the landmass of Texas, right? So it's one of those things where it's like you have so many different climates. I mean, you're right outside the Arctic Circle. Fairbanks is the nearest, major city to the Arctic Circle. It's an industrial community. The pipeline is obviously a big part of what we do. The construction agencies out there. Most time during the summer, it's about 2 men for every 1 woman. So it's not exactly the place you want to go for the dating scene. But it is hearty, healthy people that love each other and take care of each other. It's the closest that I got when I got to the Midwest. It's a lot of those kind of people. It's your community that takes care of each other, is always watching out for each other. But it is not you see the pictures of the mountains and the coast and the whales and the glaciers, and that's what people think of Alaska. It is not that. It is tundra. You get more than 10 miles outside of town, and it is vast nothingness. It's huge rivers, it's animals, it's miles and miles and miles of wilderness, and it's an amazing place to visit. I tell everybody that they should go see it twice. You should go once in the summer, enjoy the heck out of it, and then go once in the winter and realize why it might not be the place you want to live forever, because 60 below just hits different. So,
but you're not walking across the Bering Straits over to Russia from where you are when it comes to.
You are definitely not. Nancy, there's no lie. You can see Russia from the edge of Alaska. That's right. Really not a joke, but it's not something you plan on crossing, and the weather on it's not exactly the places that everybody wants to be. But I think it's an extremely unique place. It's one of the last places in the United States where you can truly feel like you are away from everything, right? You've got one road that goes through Fairbanks, that one heads north to Prudhoe Bay, and you'll run into Prudhoe Bay and the pipeline up there, and south heads out of town. If you go east or west, there's nothing there. There's no dirt roads. It's just endless It's just endless tundra and mountains and trees and animals.
And then like in July, it's like endless daylight, right? Can you you're out hitting the golf ball at like 11 at night?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the great things. It never bothered me when I was a kid. I never got it, right? It was always dark in the winter, and in the dead of summer, the sun never went down. It just circled above you, and then it would kind of dip behind the mountain, and then it would circle back above you, and you're like, okay, it's always daylight. And I never really thought about it that much. But then I would realize, like in winter, if I was playing like a basketball season, if I didn't leave for lunch, I wouldn't see the light. It wasn't about seeing the sun. The sun didn't come up, but the light would kind of crest the horizon and pop up for 45 minutes. And then it would go back down below it. So like you go to school in the dark at 6:30 in the morning for practice or weightlifting, and then you go to school all day. And if you don't leave for lunch, you don't see the sun, because by the time you're out of basketball again, it's dark after school's over. So it's one of those things where, but that was life. But the first time I came back from my break from college, I was messed up. I had like adapted to like a regular clock and a regular schedule, and all of a sudden the sun was up, and my mom's got no blinds because she doesn't care. Like, she's totally used to it. And I was in there just freaking out, like losing my mind. Like, I cannot go to sleep. It's still daylight out. So, but it's a unique experience to be around that. I remember in high school, our local golf course, which was on the military base back when you used to be able to walk right on one, was like $25 if you started after 4 o'clock, and you got to play as long as you want because the sun didn't go down. They're like, hey, we closed the pro shop at 6, but you can just keep playing rounds and rounds of golf. And when you're young and broke in high school, you're like, okay, I'm going to play like 80 holes of golf in one night, because I can, and we're walking, but we were just built different.
I think that takes a built different, and somehow you landed from the North Pole throughout all these NFL teams into Afghanistan. We're going to cover that next. More with Super Bowl champ Green Bay Packer Daryn Colledge on the Inside Wisconsin Show. Back in a bit.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Plains Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
I've shared that Amanda and I fight over the gas rewards. Okay. Well,
okay. Can I interrupt right away?
Yeah.
You don't fight. You use skullduggery and run off with them.
So she was very kind the other day and offered them to me and said, hey, we have 10 cents off a gallon of gas with the Festival Gas Rewards program, the fuel rewards, the gas rewards. Okay. And I've learned not to use said gas rewards until we're close to E. And we were only at half. And I said, no. I don't want to waste them.
Good for you.
You go ahead and use them when you're on E, if you get the chance. Well, here's the deal. $1 spent, including beer, wine, and spirits purchases, for every dollar you spend, you get 1 point. And when you get 100 points, you get 10 cents off a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
We travel a bit here in the summer in Wisconsin. We go places, camping and so on, sports and workouts every single day down in the valley. We go through a little bit of gas.
Okay.
And we also go through a little bit of food with 2 teenage boys, and I do drink
and
a little
you
bit. And me. It's valid.
Yeah.
Although trying to do less, working on it. My point is, if you grocery shop, which you do, Wisconsin, do it at Festival Foods and sign up for the gas rewards, you're going to save a bunch of money on gas at Quick Trip with the Festival Foods gas rewards. Go to festfoods.com/gas-rewards and sign up there and pump up the savings, and then fight with your wife or your husband about who gets to use them. Because heaven forbid you have your own account.
Careful. That last part sounded a little. Let's watch our tone, as my mom would say. Watch your tone.
Just you have all the points. Then sounds good. Time for another top 5 list, as always, presented by the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Discover excellence at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Our renowned engineering and STEM programs offer a cutting-edge environment with over 60 majors to choose from. Plus, exciting clubs and organizations there on campus, which means there's always fun to be had. Discover why UW-Platteville is a smart investment. Apply now. All right, so back to Alaska for today's top 5 list. You did some research on Packers in Alaska, is that right?
Well, this is sort of, the Packers and the state of Wisconsin, and kind of in honor of Daryn Colledge, and then, Tom Neville, who was there, played for the Packers. We have 2 guys that played that were from Alaska, played on the Packers. Not surprising, neither one of them was a kicker, nor were they a wide receiver when it came through. But, So I have 5 facts. I don't know that these are ranked in any particular order, right?
Okay.
It's a top 5, but it's more like a kind of a, I think it's kind of a holy crap 5. Like we have this kind of thing. So first off, we have the frozen tundra, right? Which is sort of, that is a misnomer because most tundra is frozen. There's not a lot of other kind, right? So anyway,
like
tundra,
a pink flamingo. You don't like that either. The pink flamingo.
when you show me an orange one, we can talk. But anyway, hey, look, here's a green one when it comes through. Although, listen, after you jokers drink that much beer at the thing, I think you were seeing green flamingos. But anyway, so the frozen tundra, or is it classified Arctic tundra? Did you know there is more frozen tundra in Alaska, kind of in the interior on the northwest side? There's more area that's larger than Wisconsin.
Wow.
So there's more because he talked about how the state's twice as big as Texas, right? The whole state would cover up Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota. It's that big. Yeah. So they have more frozen tundra than Wisconsin has land, period.
Wow. That's incredible. All right. That's the real frozen tundra.
So the next one is number 4 is that the Packers in their database, there are 17,000 registered Packer fans in Alaska. 17,000 of the 735K in the state. 17,000 are registered Packer fans.
Which means there's Packer bars for sure.
We're getting to that one. I love it. You're on top of it.
Sorry.
There are 2,000 shareholders with Alaska zip codes. 2,000. I find that interesting.
Okay.
There are 25 season ticket holders. That's number 2. 25 season ticket holders with Alaska. So next time I bitch about the Milwaukee crowd selling their tickets, we got 25 dudes that are making their way from Alaska to go to Packer games. Okay, don't see your tickets, people. Okay, the Atlanta people, the Alaska people are coming. And now, number 1, and I think you've hit upon it. There are 8 official Packer bars.
Wow.
In Alaska, including the Angel Creek Lodge, which
where's that?
Capacity of 38, and it is in Two Rivers, Alaska.
Rivers, Alaska? What?
I don't know if they call it Rivers, Alaska, but in Two Rivers, Alaska, there's a Packer bar, Angel Creek Lodge, that seats 38. I feel like you'd roll in there, and these would be your kind of people.
Yes, they would. How do you find where the Packer bars are? Is that PackersEverywhere.com? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
So location.
Yeah. They might be up to 9, but the last check. But just the fact that there's a Two Rivers, Alaska makes me happy. You know?
The Apple Creek Lodge, Two Rivers, in the middle of frozen BFE. Wow. That is in the middle of Alaska.
Maybe they've had a takeover. Now it's Apple. Okay. But
anyway, it's Angel. I just can't read. It's Angel. You're right.
Yeah. In Two Rivers.
Jeez, that's insane.
Seating capacity 38.
2 frozen rivers, that's for sure.
Right,
you know what? Exactly. That's not far from where Daryn Colledge grew up, from North Pole. That's literally in the Fairbanks area.
Yeah, that's it.
Road trip.
Look at you all excited now about figuring out where Packer bars are in Alaska.
I think that's fun. I feel like we went to one when I was on my honeymoon, because of course we did. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to be able to find it now, but
is it what you're supposed to do on your honeymoon? Is go to a Packer bar? I don't know that it is.
No,
I might argue that I don't know that that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, when in Rome. When in Rome. Wonder if there's any in Juneau. I'll look this up. Back to Daryn Colledge. That was good. We're back to the Inside Wisconsin show. Trevor John and Super Bowl champion Green Bay Packer Daryn Colledge. I mentioned it coming out of that last segment. Daryn, tell us what it was like going from NFL star, Super Bowl champ, to choosing to go into the military and actually serving a tour in Afghanistan, which thanks for that, by the way.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It was an awesome experience, awesome opportunity. I told you when, kind of we were early in the show, like my way out of North Pole, Alaska was to serve in the military, right? I grew up between an Army base and Air Force base. I have plenty of members of my family who have served. I've got a brother who was a special forces operator. Service was always a part of my life and something that I always respected and looked highly upon and really obviously looked as an exit strategy for me, as a way of something that I wanted to do. What flip the coin for me was after we won the Super Bowl, we had the unique opportunity when you're the guy as the team, all of a sudden you're getting calls from USO and Navy Entertainment and to go out with the Lombardi Trophy and travel and see these soldiers out in, wherever they might be. And, we got time to be on bases and we got time to spend on ships, and you meet just some of the most amazing people in the world that are out there doing a job, sacrificing for people that they'll never meet. And they're willing to give it all. And it hits you different when you're sitting on a ship with people and they're like, hey, what's going on out there? We've been locked down for 4 months because we're ready for a carrier strike or, whatever might be happening in the Red Sea. And you're like, you just start realizing the sacrifices literally that kids are making, guys that aren't old enough to drink, and girls that are out there just, giving a part of their youth to support you and do something for you. And I knew at that time that I was definitely going to be involved with that stuff for the rest of my playing career and the rest of my life. We were at the point then where we were getting ready for the lockout, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what free agency looked like. And my wife and I had a real conversation about what retirement looked like right at that moment, and joining the military and going that route. It had made that big an impact on me. The Cardinals were kind enough to make an offer that changed our life and changed the life of our family. I told you, my wife and I both don't come from money. We had a chance to take care of a lot of people, take care of our kids, and make sure that their college education was going to be paid for, and a lot of other people were going to be taken care of. And we couldn't pass that up. I tell everybody, I'm not Pat Tillman. I made a choice that I was going to take care of a lot of people, and I was going to do the selfish thing, and that was going to be making sure that we were good to go. When I separated from the NFL after 9 years, we were sitting there with a 10th year contract waiting for us. The Miami Dolphins had asked us to come back, and we decided what was important to us, what we wanted out of our lives. And we were deciding if the NFL was that, or were we just there because we hadn't done anything else and the money was good. And too many of the things circled back to we were just collecting another paycheck and we wanted to do something different. Now, I did that for health reasons and concussions and the whole 9 yards. At that point, did I know I was going to get in a helicopter and go to Afghanistan? No. So I'm not going to say I made the best health decision by joining the military. But after about a 7-8 month break off from the NFL, I started looking at what the next chapter of my life looked like and what I really, really wanted. And I kept circling back to service. And that was a big part of what I wanted to do. My wife only had one rule. We spent 9 years in the NFL traveling. We wanted to raise our family in Boise, Idaho. And she said, if there's a way for you to serve without us moving again, that would be excellent. And that's when I engaged with the Idaho National Guard. They gave me an opportunity to serve my community, which was most important to me because these people, bought my jerseys and paid for my education and supported me and gave me everything. I met my wife here. My kids have been born here and raised here. So being an Idaho Guard member, National Guard member, allowed me to serve this community in search and rescue operations and firefighting and all that. And then I got the side opportunity to also serve my country and go to Afghanistan. We had a medevac unit that was deploying out of here. I was a helicopter crew chief. I was a backseater in the helicopters. And when the medevac mission came up, I raised my hand immediately. They were looking for volunteers to do it. And I said, absolutely. I know who I am. I'm not 22 years old. I'm not G.I. Joe. I'm no hero. I'm not kicking doors in and killing terrorists. That's a job for a different group of men and women. But my job was to go bring these kids home and hopefully back to their families. And then their worst hour, hopefully I get to have my best hour and we get to save a few. And we got a chance to do that. We didn't save them all, but we brought a majority home. And that was super, super important. I got a chance to serve with heroes. I'm not one. They were, and it was an awesome, awesome opportunity. And frankly, I was ready to do it again. There was reasons I had to separate from the military that were I got diagnosed with cancer and lost my flight status and didn't know if I was going to get it back. And I was at the end of my deal. And the military, unlike the NFL, is willing to sign you to another deal. They'll be like, hey, absolutely, but we can't guarantee your job. And I wasn't willing to not do what I was doing. It meant too much to me to be stuck pushing papers and probably end up just being Daryn Colledge, the circus act for the end of my career, working in recruiting stations, if I lost my flight status. And I wasn't willing to put that, I wasn't willing to do that part of it or put my family through that again if I wasn't going to get to deploy or do the mission that I believed in.
So you belittle your part in that. I think there's a lot of hero status in there that you could rightfully claim if you'd like. I have two kind of questions. One seems less serious, but it's a legit question, and then a second one more about the duty. But so I covered the Cowboys when Chad Hennings came out of the Air Force and he joined it. Like, those things are not built for people your size, whether you're the pilot or you're in the back. So first off, just physically, like, how did you manage that? Because like I said, I've seen them and I know these things, and they're not built for you.
Yeah, you know what? Had I been a pilot, I'm actually a pilot in my private life. Like, I fly small airplanes. Grew up doing it in Alaska with my father, and one of those things I love flying. But yeah, I am not getting anywhere near. There's a reason I didn't join the Air Force or the Navy. I wasn't going to fit in anything that they sold. Yeah. And there was a reason I wasn't going to be a tanker. I'm not climbing in one of those. It's not working. But I wanted to fly, and I knew I wanted to be in the air. And I went and got in the back seat of a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter, and I was like, okay, I can kind of make this work. And then the military's gonna, they're definitely gonna take a few of the pounds off me for sure. So I'm gonna fit a little bit better. I was always gonna be tall, especially when you start adding the baffling in and the stuff that you need to, for bulletproofing the helicopter, or trying to bulletproof the helicopter for tours of duty that make it a little smaller. But the great thing about a crew chief is you're in and out of the helicopter all the time. You're moving around. You're working the hoist. You're doing stuff in the back of the helicopter all the time. A lot of the time, I wasn't stuck in the small seat. I was moving around doing stuff. But it was probably a sacrifice to be in that helicopter. It wasn't exactly built to do it. One of my other crew chiefs, I think, was like 5'3", and we always ended up being together. And it was a little bit of a mini-me situation when the two of us were working together. But I made it work because I wanted to do a job, right? We sacrifice a little bit of comfort to do the things we want to do, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I got to see, get outside of Afghanistan, just flying around in the state of Idaho and seeing this beautiful state, and flying around in California fighting fires and doing all that stuff. Just so many unique opportunities that you'll tuna cane yourself in every once in a while to get to go do those cool things.
So the second part then is, you talked about you're out on these missions and there's danger and you are rescuing people and you're doing this thing. And we tend to go, wow, you've won a Super Bowl, and we celebrate that you won a game. At any point did what you did there be not belittle, but make you look at winning a football game or that differently than you did when you were involved in the NFL?
Most definitely. Obviously, the consequences are totally different. Coming away from missions successful there is a different thing, but a lot of it is the exact same thing, right? It's finding team members, it's finding groups, it's having a common goal and coming across the finish line together and having success. Now, are the consequences higher if we don't have success in the military? Absolutely. Is the feeling a lot of the exact same? Yeah, you execute a mission. The one great thing about being an offensive lineman, I tell everybody, and the great thing about being a football player is, unlike a golfer or whatever, you need everybody on the field to get your job done. I trust the guy next to me, especially on the offensive line, to do his job every day. Because whether I'm a Pro Bowler and he's the 53rd guy on the roster, if he doesn't do his job at a level, then none of us have success. And the military is the exact same way, right? I flew around in a helicopter with a big red cross on it, which means I couldn't shoot anybody. I didn't have guns on board. I wasn't allowed to gauge the enemy. I had to trust the men on the drones, or the men in the Apaches, or the guys in the F-16s to go out and protect me and watch my back. And the guy on the ground who's having his worst day in the world is trusting his buddies to get him on the X. And then I'm going to show up in that helicopter and help my medic do his job. And every one of my pilots is expecting, when I get off that helicopter, to watch their back because their hands are on the sticks, and I have to watch the medic's back to make sure nobody sneaks up on them. So everybody's got a job to do, and everybody trusts each man to do his role. And without every single person doing their job, there's no success at the end. And that's what the NFL is, right? You got guys all the time that are put in positions to win championships and do things and have success. And 1-2 guys take their eye off the ball and choose to make it a selfish situation, and you don't win. Or you make the mistake at the wrong time and you don't win. Again, championships are extremely hard to win. If you don't win it, do you die? Probably not. But it's one of those things where you're also in a very, very unique opportunity with a very, very unique group of individuals for a small window of time. And you have to either have success or not. And that was the thing that the NFL taught me about the military, and the military also turned around and taught me about the NFL. They're very much the same when it comes to teams. And it was one of the easiest things I ever did, because when I left the NFL, that's what I missed most. I missed the team. I missed the organization. I missed being with a group of men on a mission trying to accomplish something. great.
Feel pretty inadequate over here. I'm not going to lie. There's just not much I'm doing with my life. Not a lot going on. So, all right, let's recap. You win a Super Bowl. Wisconsin, super proud of you. Thanks, Packers, right? Then you go into the military, and Wisconsin's like, wow, that's amazing. Really big fan. And then you start a company with 2 former Packers to make sure that you have an unlimited supply of alcohol. And Wisconsin's like, well, now you're just showing off. So how did that happen? How did you transition? Who called who first? Because 3 Fat Guys wine is impressive.
Well, actually, see, that's how low key we were. We actually started that while we were Packers. So we were very, very small. We worked with Charles Woodson when Charles Woodson came on with the Packers.
Where's Woody in all of this?
Exactly. So Charles had been running his label at the time, and we were looking for something unique to do, right? When you play with Charles Woodson and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and Donald Driver, nobody's calling up you to be like, hey, can I really get your jersey for an autograph session or a Christmas gift for my boss or to raise money for the kids? And so we were like, okay, what do a couple offensive linemen do for fun? Tony Mull was from Sonoma, so he already had connections to the wine business and the industry itself. And Charles allowed us to come underneath his label with his winemaker, and he bottled for us, which the laws in the state of California, you don't even want to start into that, especially when it comes to liquor. And so he was able to kind of help us get us launched off. The very first year we decided, like, okay, how much can we give away? Like, what's it going to cost us? And we're like, well, how much would it cost us if we gave away half and we drank the rest? And that's kind of the decision we made at the end. We donated half of it. We drank the other half with friends and family. And we made 126 cases of wine our very first year in one varietal. We made a Cabernet Sauvignon. And we've just slowly grown from there. And it made its biggest leaps and bounds when we all retired. Tony after 5 years, Jason, I believe, made 7 years, and then me at 9. It started to jump. Tony went back to Sonoma, worked a real job for a long time while he slowly built it up and created what it is now. And Jason and I get to show up for all the cool stuff. We shake hands and kiss babies and come to the charity events and the launch parties and have a lot of fun. But it's Tony's baby. He runs the tasting room out of Sonoma. He's the one out there every day out in California running around or showing up in Wisconsin, doing events and supporting causes out there. And, when it comes to Lombardi Foundation next month when we show up for that golf tournament, like he's the one making a lot of that happen. The engagement with Green Bay Phoenix and working with those guys from the basketball team. It's like, that's Tony. And he just asks us to come along and wave and be there for the fun stuff and support the causes. And that's just super easy and something we're excited to do. We've been able to support, kids with it. We've supported teachers organizations with it. We obviously do a bunch of support with the military with it. And it's been really a giving outlet for us. Tony, it's a job. It pays him. But for the rest of us, it's our opportunity to use it as a vehicle to donate and give back and try to raise money for good causes that we believe in.
Does Charles, does he think it tastes like, where's Charles? Like, Charles is really into that. Like, does he go like, you guys did a nice job. Like, Tony knows what he's doing. Have you gotten any kind of the Woodson rating on that?
I think Woodson respects what we do a lot. Obviously, he has his brands, and now he's stepping into liquor too. So he continues to expand his portfolio. He's playing at a price point that the rest of us can't engage with right now. And the gold jacket probably helps a lot of that. And the fact that he's just a stud human being anyways. He's one of the great guys I got to play with, and he's just an amazing human being. But I think he gives us a nod of approval. It's kind of one of those ones where, everybody remembers the GIF or the GIF from Batman. He kind of gives us the, hey guys, you're doing good. So, we've got his nod of approval. He's yet to sign any deal that says that we can put on Charles Woodson approved yet. We're working on that negotiation. Hopefully we can get that locked up. But again, we can't afford the attorneys that would take to do it yet. So it's probably going to be an AI, a chat GPT thing that I'll have drawn up.
So you touch, it's you and other guys that were on the line, and you touched this before about how if one guy doesn't do his job, because I'm always amazed about, like, linemen are just thick as thieves. Like, you guys, they talk about the wide receiver room and first off, you guys would just like meet in a Volkswagen, it wouldn't matter. But what is it about you guys that makes you tighter than everybody else? That is like, that's a tight little sewing circle, and like, you guys don't always welcome people into that either.
No, it can be quite tribal, for sure. I've never been a wide receiver. I don't know if anybody knows that. Actually, it's not true. I have one catch. I have one catch in my career from Aaron on a tipped ball. So I bat 1,000. I'm actually one of the finest receivers Green Bay's ever had. I think I'm the only one has no drops. But outside of that, I've never been in the receiver room or the D-line room. But it seems with most offensive linemen across the board, you get a lot of the exact same human beings with a lot of the same mentality. Offensive line is one of those jobs where people only know you when you're bad. They only hear your name when you're not playing well. You know, you got your Pro Bowlers, you got those Hall of Fame, those guys you hear about. But your job is to show up for 17, 18 games a year now and take care of other people every day and to be in the slog, to not miss games, and then to do a job with 4 other guys that, again, you have a ton of nonverbal communication. You have a ton of, I'm trusting somebody to be there. Like, he has to do his job, and I don't even know if he's going to be there. Like, the speed out of defenses now when it comes to games or blitzes, like, you're passing off players to guys to space that you're expecting that man to be there to do his job, to pick up that D lineman that you let go so you can pick up a linebacker so the quarterback doesn't get hit in the face so he can throw a ball to one of those wide receivers you're talking about. And you have to do all that without talking about it, without seeing it happen, without knowing that it's going to be. And it's just that kind of relationship it takes to do those things and then do it knowing that you're going to do that 50 times in the game and you're going to do it right. And nobody's ever going to pat you on the back for it. You're just going to, but if you miss it once, you're going to be on the front page of the paper, especially in Green Bay, you'll be above the fold. That it takes a special group of people to do that. And I think you insulate yourself with those men in that locker room that are going through that same grind with you every day. And it becomes a different relationship. Like we barbecue together. We played board games every day after work together. We watched each other raise kids. We watched guys get married. You know, we grew up together in a locker room. We were in a unique position where we drafted a lot of young guys in our locker room in Green Bay the same year and had some turnover at that time that allowed a lot of guys to grow up in the NFL together. And I think created relationships that were even more special there that I didn't realize until I was in the next offensive line room and the next offensive line room after that. You find a lot of those same guys, but we had a special group in Green Bay. You know, I was, had a chance to, play with a bunch of guys that are still friends to this day.
So we've had guys on this show, linemen before, Balaga, Evan Dietrich-Smith. Yeah. So they've explained the physical nature of that, right? And after like the third game, you just hurt the rest of the season. And then you go out and you go like, yeah, I'm totally healthy. And you're like, wait, you're in a walking boot and a neck brace, but I get that you're totally healthy. But explain the difference to me between tough guys and nasty guys, because I feel like if there's something the Packers are missing a little sometimes, I just don't know that they're nasty, rub grass in your face every time you're in the ground. Like, I feel like maybe that's a nuanced argument, but is there a difference between those two things?
Yeah, there's actually, I mean, it's a nuanced conversation for sure, but there's a difference, right? There's tough guys. There's guys that show up to work every single day and do their job. There's the blue collar guys they talk about on offensive lines that show up and play downfield and do it, or that play and do their job and do it in a physical level. And then there's the guys that are finishers. There's the guys that put people in the ground. There's guys who play at the second level and are continually battering stuff. Now, a lot of that's changed, right? The league rules and the way we play as offensive linemen has continued to change. Like a lot of guys joke now that I would kill it. If I was playing this era, I'd be killing it, right? Because these guys are all soft. They guys don't finish anymore. Guys don't have to. And we've eliminated the chop block, the cut, all this stuff, and burying guys or cleaning up piles. That's all stuff that we did. And now it's like you do that, and it's a $25,000 fine and a penalty. It's like guys are forced to play the game probably a little bit different, but there's still those guys that find the ways to lean on guys for a whole game, right? You if you're a guy who knows how to lean on defensive linemen and linebackers and stuff for 4 quarters, you'll tend to find out that they'll run out of energy and fight before you do. You're used to playing 75 plays a game, and they're used to their 40 or 50, and they rotate out. You can lean on guys for long enough that by the time the 4th quarter rolls around, you can just start pushing people around, and it takes special guys. It takes a certain mentality. But the great thing about offensive lines is usually that mentality grows within it. You get 1 or 2 guys that's their mentality, and they've set that example. You can have a group of guys that will really, really buy into that and see the success. And those are Those are the fun offensive lines for me to watch play. I love offensive lines to play downfield. It's probably because I was a hack and it's what I did. I love to be downfield. I love to carry. I love to play against guys who are more athletic than me and chase down linebackers and safeties. And they thought they got to be the fourth guy to hit, Donald Driver on a pileup. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. Picking those guys off, like watching guys on tape the next day that were searching, looking for you specifically because they knew you were coming. Like that was the stuff that I loved to do. Because I was never the biggest and strongest guy in the offensive line. I was never a bruiser when it came to it. I could stretch guys, I could out athletic guys, I could out angle guys. But I was never going to be the guy who's going to take on Pat Williams at the point of attack and put him on his back. Like he's 400 pounds and squatted like 900 pounds. He was a freak. But I'll stretch him as far as he wants and create a lane for a guy like Ryan Grant to run through.
I have so many more questions on all of that, but we got to take a break. And then we're going to wrap it up, I promise. Green Bay Packers Super Bowl champ, offensive lineman Daryn Colledge. Segment 3, the lightning round. Next, Inside Wisconsin.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Plains Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
So the PGA Championship just finished up. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but I'm not so sure Brooks Koepka made the cut. Did he make the cut? Did he not?
Brooks did not play well.
Okay. There was a moment somebody had their camera phone ready and saw Brooks Koepka in line at a gas station or somewhere with a 30 rack of Miller Lite post PGA Championship performance.
Oddly enough, I played golf earlier today in a tournament for our former football coach here at the University of Missouri, Gary Pinkel, to raise money for his foundation. And as you know, there's a major brewer in this state of Missouri. Mm-hmm. But we were driving around, we come over and lo and behold, we pick it up and I open the cooler and lo and behold, there's the white can calling our name.
Yeah.
So if you could just imagine this story where the beers aren't free, but I bought everybody around. So I went out and I said, I'm doing some Inside Wisconsin today. Everybody, here we go. So I went and, we were playing a six-em. Don't ask about that. And anyway, so I went through a whole six-pack, got it. Dang, dang, dang. Here we are, guys, go. And like I said, the story would be better if I'd actually had to pay for them. So I'd like you all to close your eyes and envision John actually breaking out his wallet or tipping the cart girl. But since they were in a cooler, it wasn't as bold a gesture as I would like it to be. But nonetheless, I made sure everybody, as soon as I saw him, like, cool, we're outfitting everybody. So I got a little story today to add to our little props for the folks at Miller Lite. So white cans for everybody. Let's go.
So they were white cans still, and not the gold ones for the 50th anniversary. I'm watching for those. I want that back.
You are on high alert.
I want that back. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find purchase options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. We're back wrapping it up with Daryn Colledge, Trevor John, the Inside Wisconsin Show, 2 from me, and then the ever famous JA Lightning Round. All right, first one. John mentioned it. You O-line are thick as thieves. So what was your favorite O-line dinner spot here in Green Bay?
You know what? I'm a big fan of Hinterland. They do a great job. I'm good with a steak and a beer. I'm a steak and beer guy. I mean, I run a wine company. Don't get me wrong, and I love wine, but I'm a pretty simple man. Give me a good beer and a T-bone steak, and I'll survive.
I'm in. Last one. All right, you said wine. I have joined Club TFG.
That's what I'm talking about.
That is the wine ordering club for 3 fat guys. I get a bottle a month. The first bottle that's on his way, I'm looking at my laptop off screen here. The first bottle, I want to know if this is a good pick or not. It is the 2021 Cab Sauv.
Yes. We'll send you something else. That's an excellent bottle of wine. It's what we started with. It's one of our, it's our hallmark. It's it's the very first wine we have. It sits in our premium label, and it's an exceptional bottle of wine. If you can find a 2016 sitting out around, there's probably a bunch of money in your pocket waiting for you if you can find it. But that's an excellent wine. You'll enjoy the heck out of it, and get yourself a T-bone and treat yourself right. Open it.
Deal.
What's that go for? What's that? What do you have a price on that? I know the lineman costs $35.
Lineman. So the lineman's actually a 5-grade blend for all 5 offensive linemen, and it's a screw top, and it's what we proverbially call a porch pounder when it comes to TFG. So that's the kind of bottle of wine you open up any night you want. You drink the whole thing to the bottom. I cannot actually tell you what the cab's going for right now, but I would bet it's probably in the $70-ish range.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's unfortunate because according to my order sheet, it's $88 plus $30 shipping.
Hey, it's tariffs. It's tariffs, guys. There's nothing I can do. It's inflation. Okay. It's tariffs. It's supply chain issues. It's COVID. I mean, there's something there. It's coming out of California, for God's sake. So it's probably getting taxed 4 times. I don't know that
there are tariffs on American items for Americans, but yeah, we'll go with that. Sure.
Yet.
Who am I to get in the way of that kind of reasoning? Love it.
Okay, moving on.
Is it me now? Trevor, I'm going to ask the question you always ask. I stayed away from this because Trevor always asks his questions of the Super Bowl champs. I want a lasting Super Bowl memory, but one you haven't told anybody before.
One I haven't told anybody. I've told every one of my stories. Like all my stories are gone.
That pounded liquor afterwards, Trev. That were just
So
everybody jumped the bar.
Yeah, that's exactly what. So we've heard that story. Yeah. Kuhn mentioned that to us. TJ Lang mentioned that. Brian Bulaga mentioned that. So were you a part of that? What the hell happened? And did you leave any booze, or was everybody just piled up when you got on the plane?
No, we left a bunch of booze, but I mean, everybody's seen the walkout tunnel in Dallas. Like if you watch any Dallas primetime game, they walk out through a bar, right? Everybody's lined up and everybody's having a great time. They got the ropes up, right? Well, we were the home team for that game. So we got to use their locker. We came out through that tunnel. Everybody's locked in. It's the Super Bowl. You hit everybody, you win the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden everybody's like, there's no rules. We came back out through the bar. They'd already cleared it. And everybody goes, this is a bar. And next thing you know, people are going over the rail, going around. I'm not going over the rail. I'm 300 pounds, just got done winning the Super Bowl. So I go around the bar, and people were, I'm not saying people stole everything, but I mean, there was some stuff left. My memory from the Super Bowl that not a lot of people know is like everybody talks about the security. You know, you look at the Pro Bowl, the Super Bowl, the draft this year, the security is insane, right? Getting the Super Bowl, the security is insane. Somehow my wife, 5 months pregnant, was able to jump a wall and got down on the field and lined up next to me when the Lombardi Trophy came through. And I was like, where the hell did you come from? Like, she's like, I passed security. Nobody was like, whatever. And I'm like, she's pregnant, the whole 9 yards. And she was actually there for the Lombardi Trophy presentation. So she, I don't know what the statute of limitations is in the state of Texas for her doing that. So I'm kind of saying this. Yeah, I think we passed it last week. We're probably pretty good by now.
That's what we're talking about right there. Are you the greatest 73 in Packers history?
Oh, God, no. Probably not. I mean, who you got? You got Aaron. Aaron was the 73, right? Is it me and Aaron?
But no, I have you down. I think you outstrip Aaron. He only was there 3 years, didn't win he won a Super Bowl, lost one. I have you as the best 73 in Packers history. So I don't know if you want to put that on a nameplate somewhere or put it on a business card. But
I absolutely agree then, right? Yeah. Won a championship, I played in all 53 of my games or whatever it was. Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's probably that until like they find somebody else. But for right now, I'll hold on to best 73 of all time. Yeah, that seems great.
Good. Most famous person in your cell phone?
Most famous person in my cell phone right now?
Yep.
Probably Aaron, but I don't know if the number works anymore.
Understood. This seems like they've gotten out of control. So tell me, what's an appropriate lineman gift from a quarterback?
Oh, this stuff's getting out of hand. Like I think I don't even remember. Brett didn't give us anything. He's like, your contract's your gift, so you don't deserve anything else.
Holy hell!
Best gift I ever got that was the most appropriate for an offensive lineman. Carson Palmer gave all the offensive line Segways, and I said that's probably the most appropriate gift you could give an offensive lineman because no offensive lineman wants to walk anywhere. Sure. And he wanted us to stay heavy to protect him, so he gave us Segways to drive around the campus in Arizona, so we didn't have to walk from meeting to meeting. So anything that keeps us a little fatter, that's best.
Good. Have you ever driven or mushed a dog sled?
I have ridden in a dog sled, never mushed one. That is an art and a skill. Where
did you watch the 2007 Fiesta Bowl when Boise beat OU?
in my house. Like, I know this is lightning round. Am I supposed to tell a story here? Because I'll tell you the worst story.
You can if you want one. No. If you've got it, the floor is yours, my friend.
So we had just got knocked out, didn't make the playoffs that year, and I'm a rookie, right? We had a good season, but was the starter the whole 9 yards. Exit interviews are going to happen, but the Fiesta Bowl's 2 days after the season's over, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to go. Boise State's never been to the Fiesta Bowl, whole 9 yards. I talked to my offensive line coach, and he's like, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't travel. James Campen at that time is like, hey, you shouldn't go. He's like, it's not a good look. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not going to go. I don't have my exit interview on first day because that's all the vets. They get to go home first, right? So mine's second day, right? So I go home, watch Fiesta Bowl that night. I'm fully dressed when it starts. I'm losing my mind during the game. I'm losing clothing as I'm going. The beers are flowing. All of a sudden, I'm down to pretty much just my chonies. We beat Oklahoma. And I go nuts, right? Awesome game, whole 9 yards, legendary, set the path for Boise State for the next decade. I go to my exit interview the next day. Mike McCarthy sits me down. His first question is, how about that Fiesta Bowl last night? Crazy, right? Awesome. I was like, yeah, man, amazing. He's like, did you ever think about going? I'm like, no. Coach said I had to be here for this. He's like, dude, you could have went. He's like, I would have just gotten you when you came back. He's like, totally. He's like, hey, next time you just ask me and I'll let you go. And I'm like, yeah, okay, next time Boise State's playing in its most legendary game of all time and they plan on winning it over a team they probably shouldn't have beat, I'll let you know ahead of time. Along with my bookie, I'll talk to you two first about going to the game.
Did you have that play in the book, the Statue of Liberty 2-point play? Was that in the book when you were there?
God, no. That's actually a Taylor Tharp play, and nobody knows Taylor Tharp. Taylor Tharp had a cup of coffee in the league and then ended up coaching Italian football, but he's one of the great dudes in the world. That was actually his call from the playbook, and Coach Pete was like, all right, let's do it.
Who is the head coach of the Toronto Argonauts?
Ryan Dimwitty.
2-time Grey Cup winner. Trev, do you know him?
Mm-mm. Sorry.
The fact that Ryan Dimwitty's in charge of anybody is the most amazing thing, because if you knew him in college, thank God we didn't play during the time of the internet. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that's fantastic. How fast do you run the 40 at the combine?
Not fast enough. I think I was a 5 flat or a 4 or a 503 or 499, something like that.
5.04 according to my research.
There you go. I ran it faster in my pro day. I broke 5 in my pro day.
Nice. How many reps did you throw up in the bench press?
Not enough. 23.
21. Good.
Damn, 21.
Yep. I'd rather pass block or run block.
You can run block. You can pass block all day. I'm totally fine with I was a really good pass blocker, but run blocking establishes dominance. So if you have the chance to run the ball, every offensive lineman wants to run the ball.
Fantastic. After your steak and beer, pie or cake for dessert?
Cake. Any
particular kind?
One of my favorites is anything lemon. I love all things lemon. And I'm a big fan of one I actually serve at my restaurant, which is called chocolate lemon spoon cake. So it's like death by chocolate. So
nice. Last active player from the 2006 draft class.
Last active player from the 2006 draft class?
He's still out there. He's still out there.
He's still where?
Still playing.
Oh, my God. I have no idea then.
Mercedes Lewis.
Really?
No,
yeah.
Good
Got
Lord.
one more year left with the. Okay, good. That's fine. I don't
expect 45?
He's close. He's whatever. He's 20 or 42.
Yeah.
Better field, Lambeau Fields, green grass, or the Smurf turf in Boise?
That's a tough one. I'll take Lambeau's grass is better than the quality of playing on turf all day, but for uniqueness, the blue is exceptionally hard to beat.
The mountain bluebird is the state bird of Idaho or Alaska?
The mountain bluebird?
Yeah.
Alaska.
It's Idaho. Alaska is a grouse.
It's a grouse? There we go. See, I don't know nothing about my states.
Best offensive lineman.
Michigan.
Best offensive lineman you played with. Can't be you.
Can't be me. One of the best guys I ever played with that never made it anywhere was Scott Huff, offensive line coach now, one of the smartest, most physical players I ever saw play the game, could play it at another level. Sexiest I ever played with, Chad Clifton. He had a pass set that like people dream about. One of the smartest players I ever played with was Mark Tauscher, man. He was a stud.
Very good. Guy you just hated to line up against. I don't care if he's a Hall of Famer or not.
Anybody you played in the NFC North during my time, every single one of them. But the guy who scared me most every day, Tommy Harris.
Oh, like the OU guy.
He moved like he was 260 pounds, but he was 300. Like, you'd watch him jump over guys at the line of scrimmage and make sacks, and you're like, dude, that's not even fair. Like, that's like maybe him and Haloti Ngata. Haloti Ngata was like literally like trying to hit a parked car every single play.
And finally, because we touched on this, and I feel like I need to play right into the whole narrative. In the movie Elf, what route did Buddy the Elf take from North Pole to New York City?
Oh, my gosh. I have no idea.
First, he passed through the 7 levels of the candy cane forest. Then he went through a sea of swirly, twirly gumdrops. And then he walked through the Lincoln Tunnel. So I don't know if that's exactly how you would do it. I don't have an atlas. Maybe with apps on your phone, it's different. But that's how Buddy the Elf went.
I think, well, it's called the Alcan right now, but I think we just put in a decree to not call it the Alcan. It's going to be the 7 rings of
7 levels of candy cane forest.
7 levels of candy cane forest. We're making a petition to Canada.
Perfect.
This is how every episode ends. We get into some stuff. You tell fascinating stories, and then I somehow blow it with just the most inane, stupidest stuff. And we're like, I feel like that's when it's time to go. Like, the show tells us when the show is over, and it's usually when I do something stupid like that.
It's probably over.
So, listen, thanks for your time. Thanks. I always say this to people who, as somebody who grew up in Green Bay and the success you guys have, I see what my town is when the Packers are good, right? Because they're always there. And even now, and so the Super Bowl, the things you guys do for Green Bay, I don't know that you'll, even if you were there 5 years or 20, I don't know that you'll ever fully understand what you do. So I thank you for that. The things you did, obviously, for our country, which is, as you said, a bunch of people that aren't season ticket holders, right? These are people that you do that for free, and they don't know what you do every day. We thank you for that, and we thank you for the 45 minutes, hour you spent with us here. Thank you so much, Daryn.
It's my absolute pleasure, guys. Anytime.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
Now that's saying something when you come from Alaska and get here and go, not that cold. You guys will be fine.
You can see that. But although he did say there were times,
specifically in Chicago, I believe is what he said, based on the weather and the wind and different level of cold.
Yeah.
Have you been to Alaska?
I have, but I was smart enough to cruise there in the summer about 2 years ago. I was supposed to go, and I actually went with the university cruise, and I was supposed to go, and then it was COVID, and so it got delayed, and so we went 03 or 23, 24ish, 23, I think. Whatever. It was a beautiful country. It was amazing.
Unbelievable.
That's for sure.
We cruised it for our honeymoon, 11-day cruise to Alaska. Set sail from San Francisco, went all the way up to one of the glaciers. There's many up there, Juneau, and then came back down and ported in Vancouver and flew home. It was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. I would go back in a heartbeat, maybe for the 20th. We've got a couple of years.
But see, I go and I'm looking out the scenery. You're going and thinking, I bet there's stuff in the inlands here in the interior that I could shoot.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
There are some trips from a hunting perspective that I think would be very enjoyable there in Alaska.
Yeah,
for
you're
sure.
like, I could go fish and get me some salmon or get on a trawler or maybe just wrestle a moose or a caribou or something like that. And I'm just like, that looks good. I'll sit on the deck and have a cocktail.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What is the most, so I'm thinking about John, Wisconsin here for a second as we get into the tale that we do every show. What was the most outdoorsy thing that you did in your childhood growing up here in Green Bay? Because I know that you were
like
outside.
Game?
Well, no, but you played outside a lot. You went smelt fishing, you said.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some things you did outdoors, wasn't there?
Yeah, we did. The smelt fishing was always, that was high times, and it's, it's about that time, actually. I guess a little earlier they were running. Like we lived outdoors. That's one thing, like all the kids did. Like we constantly, like we'd go camp in our backyard just to spend a night in a tent.
Nice.
We did that. And we had, it's funny because I was just literally where we've moved in. It's a fairly new subdivision. And we were walking down to see people literally yesterday that had moved in and that were friends of mine from years ago. And there were all these open lots and there's just kind of grass growing up. And I said, boy, like if we were kids, this would be what a field day. Like we'd find something new every day to do in that, whether it was a dirt bike, whether it was captured a flag, whether it was just wrestling, whether it was just digging a big hole to see who could do the biggest hole. Like, like we did that stuff all the time. I fished once in a while with my dad. That was okay. We'd get a little John boat, go out in Duck Creek, John boat that my father had left me. I may have told you this. Maybe that should be my John Wisconsin in terms of nature over nurture. So my father, when he passed away, my paternal father was an outdoorsman, I'm talking like he had his first BB gun at 12 and his first shotgun at 16 that he got. He and his brother got matching ones. And so, when they got married, my folks had next to nothing. My mom said she didn't have a car till they got married. She took the city bus or walked to work every day. Wow. After she left the farm. And so they didn't have any money. Their first date, they went on the city bus. So, and he worked for the state as a inspector on different things. And at the end of the month, when they get light on money, he went out and shot something, right? He'd just go to the woods and they'd eat a rabbit or he'd shoot a pheasant or he'd do whatever. And that's what they did to make ends meet. And my sister can still remember, she's 3 years older than I am, walking through the woods with him, traipsing through the woods as they went to shoot rabbit or a squirrel, and she would tag along with him and the whole thing, right? So she still has some of these memories, which sometimes are great, sometimes are maybe tormenting her a little bit. So she went through them. So now he passes away, and I have all his stuff. I get bequeathed his rifle, his shotgun, all his fishing tackle, this little John boat, had a little motor on it, and never once have had any desire to do any of that, right? I've told you, fishing to me is like, the other side doesn't know it's playing, so I don't think it can be a sport. So, I scrubbed up his John boat after I got it for years, but eventually gave that to my cousin, and the motor went to my uncle. I still have his fishing tackle a lot of places, but it's just sitting, put up in my mom's house. The interesting thing is I had an uncle who his 2 rifles, because they knew they wanted me to have them, but I was an infant. And so he packed them away, greased them up, and flannel and sawdust. And I think I was probably 16 or 17 when my mom had them put together and given to me. Wow. She took them down to what was, I believe, old Dennis Sports Shop.
Oh, yeah.
Downtown in Green Bay. And they put them together and they said to her, I would advise you to never let him shoot these, because if something happens, there aren't parts for these anymore. They're not going to do it. So I have these 2 wonderful rifles that literally date back to my dad was 41. He was born in 38. So into the 50s, early 50s, they're 75 years old. So I still have them. I have no idea what I will ever do with them, because my son was like me. We never traipsed through the woods. So that was that's the kind of the nature part. The nurture is, here's my dad. And so we went to Packer games instead. He was not a hunter, my brothers did it, but so, yeah, I don't know that this qualifies as John Wisconsin, but I have this really, you talk about how outdoorsy you are. And I love, I'm all about outdoorsy. I'm just not really about fishing or hunting. But again, no moral objection. Just not my thing. Yeah. I feel about thinning the herd, and I will eat your venison sausage and your venison chicken. I won't be mad at all. But I have all this stuff. I have his hunting knives. I have, stuff he used to, gut fish, all this stuff. And it's sitting here, and I wish I knew what to do with it. I wish I have a great appreciation for it in terms of it being my father's, but there's no nostalgic connection to it. And like, I'd like to take it out and see if I can, go to one of my relatives' Iowa cornfield with a dog and see if we can kick up pheasants and shoot them, So it's crazy.
I know a guy, if you ever get an itch.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'll make this one other thing, right? So when you shoot, right, here it is, you look down there. So he was blind in one eye. He was actually blind in this eye.
Wow.
Playing football as a kid, he got kicked, which is part of the reason in the car accident that killed him, he never saw the truck coming. He didn't have the peripheral view.
Oh my God.
But because of this, he still shot this way. So he had to look over it. And instead of going like that and look down, he had to, he turned and he would bend over, he'd turn his head over the, over the rifle butt to be able to see out the scope or any aiming thing he had. So it's really, it's a crazy deal. you know.
It is a crazy deal.
And so it was, and he died at 25. I was 6 months old, and last week I just turned 60. So it's amazing. I've lived long past what he did. I remember being 25 and thinking, I haven't accomplished anything. Like, at least he had a job and 2 kids. I was just like, wow, that's you realize how young that is. And I just turned 60. And what's crazy is, of course, I heard from the 2 morons. Together we're 3 morons. I don't want to make it sound like I'm not. But, you heard me talk about Byron.
Yeah.
And you met my friend Mark Halava, who's the emergency room doctor. So Byron was born on the 11th of May. Halava was born on the 12th, and I was born on the 13th.
Oh, cool.
We have always had so like for 2 days, I've just been like, how's 60? You guys all right? Don't hurt yourselves. I don't want you to break a hip, And then Mark's birthday comes, and, we're giving Byron trouble. And he's like, I don't feel a day over 60. Oh, aren't you clever? Because you're not. You're only one day. And we used to do that. Like Byron used to make Halava carry his books on his birthday because he was the elder. He's like, hey, yep, you got to take them. So that was why I had to carry both their books. So it's great. I always, my birthday's always fun because I share it with those 2 guys.
Pretty cool.
And then I had people over the house. So it was people that were around for my 21st birthday, which is, it's been, I've had a good week. There's my John Mustache, from my dad to my birthdays and all. My 21st birthday was here in St. Louis, and we had to get on the bus to go to the Big 8 meet the following morning. So I couldn't tear it up. But we went to a bar downtown here, and they had $2 pitchers during the Cardinal game. And the Cardinal game went like 14 innings.
Oh,
so even without trying, we kind of rolled on the bus a bit. Bus came early that day, but we were relatively tame,
Anything else you want to cover? That was like 8 John Wisconsin's in one. I love it.
When I was 18 and I was still running, they gave me a 6-pack of Moosehead beer, but they put a master lock on it with a shoestring that was just like, hey, you can't have this. So
awesome.
I am so blessed to have, these friends and just boneheaded people that all, we just fit together nice. It's a good thing, man.
Lifelong friends are where it's at, man. That's for sure.
Hard to beat. Yep.
Our thanks to Daryn Colledge for jumping on the Inside Wisconsin show today and sharing his story. Stay tuned. Many more of those stories to come. For John, I'm Trevor. As you were, Wisconsin. We'll see you next time.
Shut up and sit down.